Hi, I'm Rick McCawley, and welcome to Imagine, the podcast series. Imagine is about primarily my adventures through the mid-journey journey of Rick McCawley. It started last week, and every Wednesday I'm going to be bringing you new content, and I'm going to be adding all kinds of new explorations. Let me tell you about myself. When I first started left college, I was a photojournalist, and I worked for the Alligator newspaper at the University of Florida. Then I went off to my internship at the Miami Herald and got hired immediately because I garnered a couple of dozen front pages and made some great images. I spent 15 years at the Miami Herald, photographed the Etosha, the riots and the Mario boat lift, the riots in '78 and the other ones throughout time, hurricanes. And then Hurricane Andrew was part of the Pulitzer Prize winning team that covered the hurricane. We got a public service Pulitzer Prize award for doing that. I also photographed Mel Fisher when he found the Etosha, and I was the only diver with him with a photograph that appeared in Time magazine. So then fast forward, when I left the Miami Herald, it was after a year or so where I was experimenting with a Macintosh Plus at home, and I came across the idea, hey, what if I could learn how to paginate the Miami Herald newspaper in one piece of film? At that time, back in the 80s, every copy of the Miami Herald, there was an entire floor of people who typed in the stories, edited it, laid it out, and then it got spit out on columns of type. And there were paginators who took those columns of type, put wax on the back, pasted it on a board in the position the headline would be, the columns of type would be. Every photograph had to be lay-in separately as a halftone, and then you had to put a black stroke around that. It was hugely manually intensive. I think there were around 300 people at the Miami Herald at the time that were involved in making that happen. After I demonstrated the ability to lay out the entire front page, including color photographs, and make separations directly, within a 6-month period of time, the Miami Herald shifted completely over to desktop pagination. Of course, fast forward, at the time, the Miami Herald had a building right on the coast. It had its own of Miami. It had its own dock where all their forest trees that were brought from Canada were actually barged down and then unloaded a couple of tons at a time to print more than 17 editions of the Miami Herald internationally as well. We had helicopters stationed on top and a helicopter pilot whenever anything happened, including Mount St. Helens. We had a photographer that next morning up in the air photographing that from the air. Every major world event, we were there. If you fast forward to today, the Miami Herald is not a building anymore. It's not even a space. There are 3 photographers instead of the 64. Most people retired, and it's all online. The print version of it is more expensive than it used to be, and very, very few people subscribe compared to the millions that we used to have. The subscription rates, I don't even know what they are, but they're quite horrible. And then photographers started shooting video, and we go from 65 to 3 photographers. So understanding that in my lifetime, there was, when I was born, the day I was born, there's black and white TV, 3 channels on TV. This is 1959. That was it. No microwaves, no internet, no phones, no Photoshop, no computers, none of those things. I had a beeper at work all the time. When we got about in the 90s, when we finally got the cell phone, it was this big giant brick Motorola thing, and we had walkie-talkies, which we communicated with. If we had to get our maps, they were city maps, then you had to locate where you're going to make your photographs right on those giant city maps that went into excruciating detail. So I would shoot 5 or 6 assignments a day. And today they're shooting video, they're shooting audio, they're shooting still photographs, all the above. And they're doing it on deadlines that they work out of their car, they work out of their homes. And there's a small meeting space, but even the offices that everybody used to go to is non-existent anymore. Having seen those kind of level of changes in my lifetime, the changes that AI represents in how it's going to affect each and everything that we do. When I left the Herald, I got hired as a consultant, and I set up International Fine Arts College, Barry University, with photography and graphic design programs, created a 3D program at the Art Institute, and some other programs. So I created curriculum to be able to teach. I also did Fortune 500 companies where I'd get paid $2,000 a day to teach them about how to run Photoshop and all these other things that I kind of learned on my own. So I started making a lot more money. And then I decided, hey, what if I just make regular money, right? My ex-wife at the time was making quite a bit. So had 2 kids at home, paid more attention to that, decided that I wanted to go teaching, because when I created the program Curriculum at Graphic Design here at Broward College, I got the opportunity to actually teach. Went back, got my master's degree from the kind folks at Barry University, created a master's degree for me, and then went to get my MFA. That was in photography. My MFA that I got from FAU, right across the street, our sister campus for upper level education and graduate level education, and then came back to teaching with a full degree and ready to go. So I've been teaching now 23 years at Broward College, and in that time, I've had to change the way I taught in every way, shape, and form. In 2000, 99% of students leaving my program were going towards print graphic design. By 2005, web design was introduced, photography was a class I introduced, and by the last 8 years, words like interface designer, experience designer, and artificial intelligence designer, I mean, all of these things, code designers and website designers, all those things that did not exist in 2000 were now becoming the forefront. App design is something that has been invented in a very short period of time. So what I'm going to suggest to you is, when the internet hit, it changed everybody's lives. When the iPhone hit, it changed everybody's lives. When Photoshop hit, it changed photographers' lives. My entire life experience at the Miami Herald was processing my black and white film and then later color. And only on occasion, maybe once or twice a week, would be asked to shoot color film. I had 36 exposures, and my cameras today cost about the same amount of money, and they have tens of thousands of exposures on each and every disc, and then I can have unlimited supply of pictures that I take. Pictures can be transmitted with my cell phone, tethered to my camera. These are all things that were unthinkable, and this is in my lifetime. In fact, it's in the second or third half of my lifetime. So what I have to do for the students is I have to realize that their life's going to change. By the time they get to the workplace, the entire 2-year program, I'm going to guarantee this: the way they do graphic design will fundamentally change forever. In the last few years, there's been over 1,000 job titles that were created in the last 5 years alone. ChatGPT, which started just a year ago in January, more or less, started from 0, and is now over 150 million people using text, talking to this artificial intelligence and writing screenplays, writing songs. In fact, I rewrote my curriculum for my classes, more photography class that I was asked to do by Adobe, about aperture and shutter speed and everything else. I improved my quality of writing. In my classroom, I've got tons of examples, making mock-ups for items that we want to put our own logos and designs on top of, whether it be a wine bottle or it's a, everything, right? Everything has changed. We're doing illustrations in illustrations class. We're doing mock-ups. We're doing persona images. So if we're doing a dog park and we want to have one of our personas, the people using these products, to be an elderly couple in their 60s with a Labrador retriever, guess what? I'm able to do that. If I want to use it in illustration, ideation, etc., tons of examples that I can show you that that speak to that. All right.